The 2019 Ohio State Fair happens July 24th through August 4th. For more information, daily schedules, and to hear season 1 of this podcast, visit ohiostatefair.com. That's ohiostatefair.com.
Jason Fallon, State Fair DNR Park Manager for the Department of Natural Resources.
How long have you been doing this?
This is actually my 12th State Fair. I can't believe it. It's already been 12 years.
The Ohio State Fair and Wessler Media are proud to present A Fair to Remember, discovering the stories and people behind this statewide tradition. I'm your host, Vince Tornero, and this is Season 2.
And also see one of the really cool things we have are invasive species, which aren't cool, but they're kind of cool to look up. Sea lampreys with the crazy faces. You're going to have to come back there and see it one of the days. It's so
I have no idea what you just said, but you're the natural resources guy. I just hold microphones and ask questions. The Oasis at the Fair. What I am talking about is the Natural Resources Park, southeast corner of the grounds. There is a lot to do there. One thing I think is pretty neat is kayaking. So let's learn more about that activity and jump in one right now with OD&R PR manager Jason, who you heard at the top of the show.
So it's actually a year-round process. A lot of people don't realize that. As soon as the fair gets over, we take stuff down. One of the interesting things about our park is that, we really don't use it that much other than during the state fair. So we have to keep it up. It's basically what I call our amusement park, because we have issues just like any other amusement park. We have building issues, grounds issues, different things with, kayak pond, animals, all that fun stuff. So really it's a year-round process for us, planning what we're going to do the following year. And then pretty much in March, we're down there, we're cleaning up the grounds, starting to plant flowers, trying to get a focus on exactly what things we're going to be focusing on for the department, as well as, making sure everything's up and running. So it's just not as easy as going on and flipping on a light switch. I mean, this is months and months and months of planning by a number of different individuals to make sure that we have a very successful state fair.
Do you know how many people visit the park each year?
Yeah, we estimate about 40 to 50% of the people that come in the fair come back to our park, whether that just be to walk through. But actually, I talked to a number of people. The only reason they come to the fair is to come to the DNR park, because it's all, all of our activities are free with fair admission, and it's all underneath trees. So you could literally spend a whole day just in Natural Resources Park. So I would say about 50% of the people come to our park.
It's pretty neat. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's just straight up. It's cool. It's cooler back there.
It's definitely cool and more. I mean, you could use that adjective in a couple of different ways. It's not just cool, but it's an experience. It's bringing a picnic lunch back there with your family, to going to a lumberjack show, to seeing the All Ohio Youth Choir and band perform back in the DNR park. There's always lots of different things to do. We also have Columbus Zoo animals on the weekends, so seeing the bald eagles. I mean, there is so much stuff to do back in our park.
So what all can you do back there?
So it's 8 acres. I call it the Oasis of the State Fair. So you can do everything from, of course, going and saying hi to Smokey, where he always knows your name. In our pavilion, there's lots of different hands-on experiences. One of my favorite things is our touch pool, where we actually bring in some stream tanks, and you can actually see what kind of critters live in a scenic river and actually touch and feel. And also see one of the really cool things we have are invasive species, which aren't cool, but they're kind of cool to look up. Sea lampreys.
So what is one of these lamp animals?
It's sea lamprey. It's actually very long, very slimy. It's got this sucker face with these teeth, and they actually suction cup on people's boats. And they're invasive species that you find in Lake Erie, so it's kind of cool.
I'm never going to go in the water again. Thank you.
You still have to go in water and always wear a life jacket if you're going on the water. So speaking of that, we have
you sneak that in there.
Hey, now
it's just common sense in all reality.
So speaking of that, we have a kayak pond which we actually installed in 2008. We get about 3,000 people that go through that each year. The biggest thing we teach people is the proper life jacket fitting. A lot of people don't realize you have a particular brand style for people's ages, weights, all that good stuff. So they definitely teach people how to find the perfect life jacket for them. And you actually get in a kayak and actually able to paddle around a kayak for a few minutes. So that's super cool, very exciting. We have a personal watercraft simulator, which actually feels like you're in a jet ski. We have our amphitheater, which again we have shows 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. The 3 shows daily. The lumberjack shows are one of the highlights. They've been doing it every year that I can remember. Retriever dog shows, other different animal shows, different entertainment acts from bluegrass to country to rock. That's always a ton of fun. We have a tall grass prairie, which are over 80 different species of wildflowers that have actually been transplanted into this little prairie. But there's so many different colors. You see hummingbirds, butterflies. It's really awesome. And then, of course, one of the highlights of the park is our wildlife area. We have a newer indoor archery and air gun range. Awesome to do, awesome to try out. We have, of course, the kiddie fishing pond, which we have stocked with almost 2,000 bluegill. Where you can catch it, you can take it home with you, or you can toss it back in. And that's for kids all day, every day. There's a wildlife boardwalk with eagles and hawks and owls. And one of my favorite things is actually the butterfly house, where you can actually see a butterfly hatch out of a chrysalis. That is pretty amazing. And you can also learn about the different plants you can plant to attract these butterflies. From milkweed, the catchfly, the coneflowers, there's all different types, species of plants that are specifically for pollinators. So that's super important. So yeah, and then we have of course, our great state parks and the different ways you can camp and stay in a state park, from our different kinds of yurts to RVs, all different kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything in our natural resources park.
So if a butterfly latches on to me, do I get to take it home?
No. You have to keep it in there.
But it chose me. I didn't choose it.
It'll very easily fly off of you onto the next sweet person it finds. And I would be remiss. One of the other really cool things, which we actually launched a couple years ago, which is our geological walkway through time. Former First Lady Hope Taft was actually very instrumental in this. And it's actually a complete circle of the different times of Ohio, shows you different types of rocks during that time. And there's actually a huge map which shows where the glacier stopped a number of years ago. And it kind of shows you all the different, where you can find different habitats and different rocks throughout the state. So again, super awesome. We probably have about 15 different raptors on display, and that actually still very impressive. That actually comes from a place called Back to the Wild. It's a rehab place up in Castalia. They do wonderful work. Their main job is to rehabilitate birds and release them back into the wild. The ones we have on show at the fair, unfortunately, are educational animals, so they can never be released back into the wild. So we have about 15 different raptors. Butterflies, probably over 100, 150 butterflies that you'll actually see in the butterfly house during the fair. I already talked about the bluegill. We have about 2,000 that we stock in the kiddie fishing pond during the length of the fair. And one of the other things which is cool about that area too, if you decide to throw a bluegill back in, you can always go over and try some bluegill, which actually show people how to properly fillet and fry the bluegill.
Clarify one thing, you said raptors, and that's like the animals that go and grab like... I'm thinking this is like some Jurassic Park stuff going down.
Yeah, that is a raptor is basically a bird with they're carnivores. So that would be a hawk, an owl, an eagle. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Their raptors are basically with those type of animals. One of the other things I did want to mention was Arboretum. A number of years ago, our division of forestry was like, I think there are quite a number of tree species in our 8-acre park to qualify for an arboretum. We actually did get it. We actually have so many tree species and plant species, we're actually a level 2 arboretum, which is over 80 different species of trees, which is kind of crazy. All these trees are marked in the park, so when you come through the park, you can actually see what kind of trees we do have planted. And then if you want to learn more something about the flowers and stuff like that, back in our tallgrass prairie, all those plants are marked as well. So little tidbit of information for you.
So I think when you look at the state as a whole, what you have at the park itself is really a microcosm of what the state offers in its entirety. So, how many state parks actually are there across the state?
So yeah, it's a great thing about the Natural Resources Park. It's the biggest marketing tool we have as a department throughout the year. We have, and this is just kind of like we have 75 state parks, 21 state forests, 136 state nature preserves, over 140 different wildlife areas. It's just crazy to think, and that's just those. We also have scenic rivers, which we manage, Lake Erie, which is huge. But yeah, in these state parks, they're so diverse in different parts of the state. Ohio is super cool when it comes to people think of Ohio as just this big flat piece of land. It's actually not. Think about it. Northwest Ohio, of course, is flatter, but you have the plains like type areas. Northeast, you have Lake Erie. And then southeast, it's the rolling hills of Appalachia. And you have places like Hiking Hill State Park and Shawnee, Lake Hope, which are just gorgeous because it's all different hills. And then southwest, you have the Ohio River Valley. So you really have a really cool dichotomy in this state that people don't realize. It's actually really cool. I mean, the park itself, it's grown so much throughout the years. I know the fair, I think, started in 1886. It's when the current site of the fair was actually established. And actually at that point, there were 6 large ponds on the grounds that now we use for youth fishing, which is kind of cool, one of the original ones. So it kind of goes from there. 1916 was actually the first year the state of Ohio sponsored an exhibit, and this was an aquarium exhibit. Which is unfortunately the tanks were late on delivery from Pittsburgh, and the exhibit did not open until after the fair started. So, even in 1916,
hey man,
at least the fair started, which is the
fair started and they got the exhibit there. So cut them a little slack,
you got to give.
They were traveling by train and horse and buggy. So they couldn't just put it in the Honda and drive on down.
Put it in a plane and fly it over from Pittsburgh.
I'm not sure where the Wright brothers were at that point.
Another cool thing, 1919, the fair called on 50 game wardens to police the state fairgrounds. I thought that was kind of cool just because our wardens don't police it. Of course, it's the Ohio Highway Patrol and local police that do it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Our park actually didn't open until 1956, which was when ODNR and several of our divisions actually formed the DNR park.
So it really took almost 100 years of the fair existing for Ohio Department of Natural Resources to actually have a larger presence at the fair.
Correct, because our department didn't start till around that time anyway. But there were other different, there was one really cool thing I saw, which was in 1948, 23,000 boys entered a fishing contest at the fishing pond at the fair, which I thought was, wow, that's kind of crazy to think 23,000 kids did that in that time. But yeah, it was basically at that time. And then 3 years later, our favorite furry Smokey Bear came to the fair and started, which is crazy to me of how long Smokey has been at the fair. Yeah, he actually turned 75 on August 9th. So yeah, but we're going to do stuff during the fair to definitely commemorate his birthday. I know I've heard the choir is actually going to come out and sing happy birthday almost every day, which will be a lot of fun. And then we're going to do, like I said, different things throughout the fair to commemorate his 75th birthday.
Smokey the bear, Smokey the bear, growling and a growling and a sniffing the air.
So, and Smokey specifically, I know we touched on this in the previous history episode from the last season 1, but Smokey's undergone different changes and stuff. He actually used to wear, if I'm correct, he used to wear Levi's, like legitimate Levi's.
Correct, that were made, I believe, by a 4-H group, yeah, that actually quilted together all these different Levi's to make his suspenders. And I believe we had to get throughout the years maybe 3 or 4 different suspenders for him to wear. So in 2015, Smokey was getting a little old. His parts didn't quite move the way they used to. So we, with the help of the U.S. Forest Service, were able to get a brand new animatronic Smokey Bear. And again, that was 2015, and we're really happy about that. It really made a huge difference, and kids just love it.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive thing. Like, even I think even adults, when you see it, like for me, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool, and I think we're one of 2 states in the country that actually have a talking Smokey Bear, which is also really cool. But yeah, it is probably one of the highest highest rated attractions at the state fair. I mean, everyone comes back there. They want to see Smokey. They want to hear him say their name. And even, I mean, kids and adults, they still can't figure it out. But Smokey always knows your name.
Well, and I think one of the things that's so precious about the fair and the park itself is that I did an interview with Virgil, the GM of the fair, last year, and as he was talking, he mentioned something about former Governor Voinovich and how he didn't really understand. The former governor really didn't understand what the fair, didn't really get it until he went there with his grandchildren and saw them enjoy the fair. So I think one of the things that's so neat about the fair itself and Smokey specifically is the fact that it offers a little portal of escape for both adults and children.
Yeah, and that's what makes it, I think, really special. It's, no one can figure it out. It's really cute, when you have a kid that's 4 years old and then an adult who's my age, 45 years old, who they're like, how does he know my name? I don't understand. And it's the facial expressions are exactly the same. And I think it makes everybody smile. And to me, that's, again, going back to, why I like the fair so much. It's the people interactions and to see how much fun they have and to really make, it's a kind of a way to get away from everyday life and just to come back and have a good time and relax. And that's what I think the fair is all about. I mean, all I say is, DNR Park, it's kind of tucked in the southeast corner, so not a lot of people know where we are. If you get a chance, even if you're parked up in the Cardinal Gate, up in the lot by Crew Stadium, definitely, jump on the tram, try to find your way back to the park. I guarantee you have a wonderful time, no matter if you're young or old or in between. It's a great place to just get off your feet, get under a tree, have your lunch, or take in a show, or learn something new about natural resources.
A Fair to Remember, presented by the Ohio State Fair and produced, edited, sound designed by Wessler Media. Executive producer and PR manager is Alicia Schultz. Additional script writing and editing by Becca Kerr. Every episode expertly mastered by Joey Gerwin at Orange Studio. Special thanks to all of our guests and anyone who did anything at all to make this podcast a reality. And thank you for attending the fair year after year and upholding this wonderful and fun tradition. Last, and of course not least, got to mention my wife, Melina, who listened patiently to various rewrites, versions, and edits of all of these episodes. I love you. And I'm your host, Vince Tornero. This has been A Fair to Remember. I'll see you on the Midway. The fun, the draw, the excitement of a fair, that should be enjoyed by everybody. And this year, the Ohio State Fair, it's going to be more accessible and inclusive of individuals with disabilities. Now, this is in partnership with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, complimentary wheelchair mobility charging stations. They will be available throughout the grounds and are listed on the fair maps. And these fair maps, they can be picked up at the Fair Guest Information Services booths. Second, fairgoers who are blind or low vision, they can use this technology called Ira. This is really amazing stuff. Now, Ira, it's going to connect to an agent who can help you with navigation. In collaboration with Ocali, a sensory-friendly morning is going to take place July 31st, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. throughout the fair. The lights and the music on all the rides are going to be turned off, and fairgoers can enjoy the many educational activities, including those in the Oasis at the Fair. That is the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Park. Now, if you want more information on all this and all this great stuff about making the fair more accessible, you can find it by emailing info@expo.ohio.gov. That's info@expo.ohio.gov. Or you can plan to stop by a guest information services booth during the fair. What do you have some state parks you appreciate for certain aspects? Because I know, the 75, they all have their own individual, attributes that you appreciate, as individual parks. But is there one that's just like, yeah, I really like this? Not that it's better than anything else, but you just appreciate it for a particular reason.
Yeah, I think for me, it's not just parks, but it's also like nature preserves. Conkle's Hollow Nature Preserve in Hocking Hills is my zen location. It's probably one of the best hikes in the state. It's absolutely beautiful no matter what time of year you go. And it's also in the Hocking Hills region. You know, everyone knows Old Man's Cave and Hocking Hills State Park. To me, it's not just that, it's finding these other locations around the state. And that is one of my favorite go-tos. Another really cool place up in Northeast Ohio, all the way up in Ashtabula, or right by Ashtabula, is Headlands Dunes Nature Preserve. So it's right next to Headlands Beach State Park, which is the biggest stretch of beach in the state. Headland Dunes is, again, another really cool location that you wouldn't even think you're in Ohio, because the dunes, we have a boardwalk now. You can walk all the way out to Lake Erie on. Again, a really cool place. Something else that I think Ohio has, it's so unique to the state, unlike other places, is the islands, Lake Erie Islands. We have a number of different state parks out on these islands. Kelly's Islands has the glacial grooves, which is one of the few places in the world you can actually see these glacial groove rocks. Again, who knew that in Ohio we have something that spectacular? So yeah, I have a couple little favorites. Probably my most, other than Conkle's Hollow, is definitely Clifton Gorge State Nature Preserve, which is over near Yellow Springs. I hike that 4 times a year. It's a mini Hocking Hills. It's a dichotomy of, you know, you get that really cool rock features. It's the best place, I think, to go see spring wildflowers. And again, it's a 4 to 5 mile hike. That's a great one-day trip.